Hello everybody, welcome back to another Game Designer Plays. I am Eric, I'm a game designer, and today we're going to be looking at Eldest Souls. Eldest Souls is a 2D Souls-like action RPG in which you're slaying down massive gods and trying to be skillful, precise, and not die all the time, which is definitely going to happen. What I really appreciate about Eldest Souls is how simple it is and how pure it is. So instead of having specific equipment you can choose to use, instead of having a plethora of spells that you can use, instead of having items that you can use within these combat scenarios, you only have your limited amount of combat moves. So you have 3 or perhaps 4 actions you can perform. You can perform basic attacks, you can perform a charged attack, which will give you a boost or a perk that allows you to regenerate health when you're attacking enemies. Later down the line, once you've gained some skill points, you can actually choose 1 out of 3 builds, and you can, for example, get a shield that automatically blocks incoming damage, and you can also attach those perks and skill trees to active abilities that you can use, which can be seen as a heavy attack that you need to charge up and connect with your charge attack. So what's so beautiful about this system is how limited it is. And because of those limitations, there's an emphasis on player interaction. There's an emphasis on player growth. Everything about the game is how you as a player execute your movements. Are you able to fully grasp the combat system? Are you able to analyze the enemy and see what their weaknesses are? Are you able to execute accordingly? There's no way you can cheat in this game. There's no way you can use an OP build and just cruise through the game. Another thing that's very well done in this game is how the enemies in the game are telegraphed, and how these enemies in the game are extremely varied to one another, and how the form follows function. So the only enemies in this game that you actually fight are bosses. There are no other roaming enemies that are around there. No, the focus is on the bosses. Every boss has a unique design, and their design represents what they do. So for example, you have these big knight in armor, and it's very tanky, and it will block, it will throw spears at you, it will try to run towards you with a shield. So the moves that derive from the appearance of the characters strengthen the immersion of the player and the believability of that boss fight. In addition to that, the moves in itself are telegraphed to a very great extent. Telegraphing basically means that you have a slight delay, or you show off that the enemy is going to do something with an animation to prepare the player to dodge or prepare for another action. This is very well done in the game, and it allows the player to really feel the sense of, I am powerful, I understand what the enemy is doing, I can dodge this, I can work around this. There's also a sense of escalation within the boss fights. What I really like is how the boss fights move through different phases. So initially it starts off teaching you the basic mechanics of the boss fight, and continuously start to progress and add more to it, develop on these mechanics. So if a boss initially shoots 1 laser, it will now shoot 2 lasers later on down the line, and that way there's a sense of escalation and difficulty increasing throughout the fight. What I feel is Eldest Souls' greatest strength is the idea of beating the unbeatable. I go into a boss fight and I have absolutely no clue how to beat it. I'm showing you the 3rd boss right now, and I went in there and I just died within a couple of seconds every single time. But 20 times later I got him halfway through his HP, and after 50 times I managed to beat him. And that sense of escalation, that sense of progression, that sense of mastery, that I can finally do something that I was unable to do before, is excellent. And it's also excellent because it's enhanced by how the game sets up its design and how the game implements those mechanics. So one very clever way to not frustrate the player, but instead give them a sense of redemption of, I want to beat this boss, I can do this, I can complete this, I just need to try it one more time, is the fact that the moment you die, you don't respawn at a bonfire or at a saving point. No, you respawn right there in the arena if you choose to do so. You get an optional screen. Do you want to retry? Yes or no. What this does is that it asks the player to commit themselves to this challenge. Are you ready to face this challenge again? If you are, the moment you press this button, you're right in there in the action. You committed yourself to this. You need to try to get your revenge for the past deaths. Or you can choose to give up. But this initial commitment just creates this sense of urgency or redemption, which I feel other Souls-like games haven't been able to match to this extent. In other Souls-like games, you die and you need to run back for a minute or so to go back to the specific boss fight. And if this happens a lot of times, this leads to frustration instead of the notion of redemption, which can really take you out of the immersion and the task that you want to accomplish at that specific moment. You're angry, you're mad at the boss, you want to kill the boss. You don't want to have to run around a minute to get to the boss and then be killed within an instant. So I really appreciate the fact that this decision has been implemented. And something I noticed as well is that very often in boss battles, once you've completed the first stage of a boss battle, it gets boring. You know exactly what to do. But within Eldest Souls, although you do know exactly what to do and it's becoming much easier and easier, you will still get punished for being reckless. The moment you make a mistake, you will get punished. You will live the consequences of that mistake. For example, the first boss, I beat it 10 times by now, but the moment I go into the first boss and I'm reckless, I mess up, I will die inevitably. And this goes very well into the idea of mastery. The moment I go back into these boss battles, and although I've already surpassed half their health hundreds of times, I feel accomplished. I feel a sense of gratification for actually being able to cruise through this part that I was struggling so much with an hour ago. I can now do something that I couldn't do before, which gives me a sense of fulfillment that a lot of other games aren't able to do as well as Eldest Souls. The last thing I want to highlight in Eldest Souls is how there is intermittent pacing in between the boss battles and the exploration of the world. So once you've finally beaten this hyper-tense boss battle, which required a lot of mental energy and a lot of twitch reactions, you're now set out into the open world and provide a space to just calm down for a bit. To just take in the world, the immersion, take away some story elements from what is going on in the world, and really gives you that chance to continuously feel the sense of pride and accomplishment that you've just achieved from defeating that boss battle. This is absolutely crucial. If you would throw another boss battle right after that, the player would have already forgotten about how well they did in the previous boss battle, and instead would become immediately frustrated with the next boss battle because they thought they were absolutely amazing. They thought they were doing great and they finally beat this one thing that they couldn't before. But now you immediately serve another boss fight that absolutely destroys them and annihilates them. It will demotivate them and they don't want to play any longer. So I'm really hoping that Eldest Souls will continue growing. What I've played was a demo representation of the game, and it included 3 boss fights, and I'm really hoping that the array of bosses are as varied as they are in the demo, and that it will provide me and other players with a challenge that's going to be painful, but going to have an immediate reward and immediate feedback, which is also visible in the game. The moment you defeat this boss, you get a skill point. You're able to allocate the skill point to whatever build you want to follow, and this will consequently provide you with an enhanced skill set and can allow you to more cleverly and tactically play around in the battlefields. So overall, I think Eldest Souls is an absolutely amazing Souls-like game that really narrows down and focuses on the core gameplay experience of what makes Souls games so demanding but still so satisfying to complete. So I would definitely recommend you keep an eye on Eldest Souls. I will for sure. And thank you so much for listening to Game Designer Plays, and I'll be back tomorrow with another episode, so stay tuned. Bye bye!